today, and I'm going to turn the mic over to Darya, Maltseva and her team, Aryuna, Radnaeva and Tamara Shcheglova. They have some new results to share, so I'll just, without any further ado, let them talk about what they have accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we are very happy that we have so many people who wants to listen to us. And we want to share some results of the project, of the article actually that we are currently working, three of us. And we are very excited to share our results. And so we decided that Aryuna will have her screen on, and we will talk one by one. We will present our topic. So, of course, I should say that we are very much interested in the feedback, and so please be so kind to tell just everything that you want to say after this presentation, or probably during this presentation. It would be nice to discuss the things because we really want to do this. Okay, so now I think, Aryuna, it's your turn, right? Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's Tamara's turn. Yes, please.
So I think we should start from the very beginning, how this idea of this article and this research started. So nearly a year ago, I started thinking about applying the methodology of block modeling to the study of online communities, because I've been working for a while with online social groups, and I found out that there are some specific roles of people who communicate in the groups. Some of them are very active, the others are not. Some promote the conversations, the other are just looking from the side. And I decided that it would be nice to study these roles and this relationship between the roles and to find some structure in it. At the same time, Aryuna, I think she was doing an empirical research of the online group of sociologists on Facebook, and she also applied this methodology to study this community. But we were working like separately, didn't know about each other's studies, and one day Darya came to us and said, why don't you guys write an article together? Because in Russia, sociologists and other scientists know very little about block modeling, and it would be nice to introduce this method to this community. First of all, because it's not very popular, and secondly, because our scientific advisors of our laboratory, they are super cool in these methods. They know a lot about it. They have developed it for a very long time. And it would be good for us to know about this method more and to share our knowledge and some findings with the community. So we decided to write this theoretical and methodological article with the empirical example, and here we are. So Aryuna, please, next slide. So about block modeling, what is it? This is a method, clustering method that was designed specifically for the analysis of network structures. So where units are connected to each other, and this method's based on the concept of role structures and the allocation of certain position in the network. So this method deals very large networks, and it helps to make a very small and comprehensive structure that is easily interpreted. For example, you can see on the picture where we have a complex network that has relations within the clusters and between the clusters. And with the method of block modeling, we can make a very simple structure that describes the big network. Next slide, please. So first of all, I think we should focus on the main concepts of block modeling. And the first one is the concept of matrices. Matrices is the basic instrument in block modeling. They help to get the blocks, so the relationship between the positions in the network, And just using the matrix and the permutation between the columns and rows, we can get some structure that could have, for instance, the several block types, like complete blocks where all the nodes are connected, the null blocks where no nodes are connected, and the regular blocks where at least one where at least one row column are connected. So next slide, please. And the basic concept also is equivalence. Equivalence is a measure that helps to understand how similar are the structures. And there are two types that are usually used in block modelings. There's a structural equivalence that shows the equivalent units that has a similar pattern of connections to the same neighbors. And there are regular equivalents that has similar pattern of connections to the different neighbors. And I think next, and there are two types of block modeling approaches. The one is indirect and the other is direct. In the first kind of approach, we firstly build the measures of similarity and dissimilarity, then make hierarchical clustering, and build a visualization and make these clusters out of these measures. And indirect approach, we first determine the number of positions that we want to obtain, and then we try to ascribe some nodes to these types of positions by permutation of the matrix. And using criterion function, we try to minimize the error value. And next.
Yeah, yes, and now I think it is my turn. So in our work, we also wanted to find a theoretical foundation for the method of block modeling, because it's when we speak about these roles and positions, we actually think about some theories in social science which were developed by classical sociologists in the middle of 20th century. Before talking about this, I wanted to say that it's interesting that despite the initial intention of social network analysis as a field in general, to the restoration of theoretical interest in relationships, actually in social network analysis, we can say not only, the representatives of social network analysis and also critics of this approach, they say that there is a so-called theoretical vacuum, or there is a lack of theory and a lack of theoretical basements in models, because the models and methods are developed much more than they are connected to some theoretical foundations. So that's why we decided to look at some basement. So as I told, when we think about these roles and positions, we somehow think that these notions naturally connect the method to the classical theories. And if we look more precisely, we can find some first formalizations of these notions in the works of Wilfredo Pareto, Max Weber, George Herbert Mead, Ralph Linton, and also it is used a lot in 20th century anthropology, sociology, and psychology. But probably like the main name which come to our mind when we think about it is Talcott Parsons and his structural functionalism. So we decided to look at the more precisely to the work of Parsons, and also as Anushka advised us, we also looked at the theory of Zygmunt Frederick Nadel, who is a British and Australian anthropologist. So we present some of the ideas of this sociologist and anthropologist. So please, next slide. Yeah, talking about Talcott Parsons, it's interesting that he understood social system as a structure of relations between the actors which are involved in interaction processes, or which can be also seen as a network of relations. So it's interesting to find this relational notion, relational description of social system in Parsons' work. And the active units of the structure of social systems are personalities who act in their roles. And role can be seen as a processual aspect of interaction, which means that they mean functional, they show functional meaning of a person, of an actor in the social system. And another term which is very close to role is status, which is seen as a positional aspect, which show exactly the place of actor in social system. And the roles differ according to the proposed models of variables. Parsons speak about 6 types of these models of variables. And actors, actually, they are seen as a complex nodes of statuses and roles. So it is also called status role. However, it's not an attribute of an actor, but the unit of the social system. And it's interesting that another unit of action that can be in this social system is collective, and status roles of actors are considered together in these collectives, and thus status roles are used for identification of the 2 ways of organizing social systems, which are mutually overlapping. So the individual level and the level of collective. Please, the next slide will show us some theoretical foundation of Siegfried Nadel. And he also, he's basing on the ideas of Parsons. However, he also have some different ideas. So he understands some notions a little bit differently. And he sees the status as a quasi-role. So it is a set of rights and obligations, so-called knowledge, which becomes a role only when it is fulfilled, when it is performed. And so it can be seen that like status is a rule and the role is its application. And also all roles have a foundation in status, but status does not always lead to the formation of a role. And again, as Parsons, Nadel says that roles are never played at the same time. So this is something which is done in process through time, so like role by role. And what is important in this theory of Nadel is that he extracts some basic characteristics. Yes, the record will be available. So he extracts some basic characteristics of roles, and they are summation, so that one person, one personality can have, for example, a role of husband, but at the same time, this role also means the role of son-in-law, which he obtained when he becomes a husband. So this is called the summation. Another characteristic is dichotomization. This is something that when there is one role exists, there is some role opposite to it. So for example, the role of husband needs the role of wife. So this is something without which this role would not be really a role. Also, this role, this dichotomized role can be, for example, something like one versus all. So it's not necessary the roles of the form wife and husband, but it can be one and many. And also another characteristic is tradization of roles, which means that always when two roles are interacting, there is always a third party, third side. And this is something like transitivity of relations. So there is always some one third. And this characteristic, they connect the roles and they lead to the emergence of coherent role system or also social structure, also in the form of a network, as Parsons says. And being connected into subgroups with their own order and structure, individuals are also placed in relationships with other actors outside their subgroups, and they play roles of members of a particular groups. Also, what is important that Nadal says that structural descriptions requires going beyond the qualitative characteristics of individuals, of their relations, and particular cases. And he sees these clean roles as positions and possible relations between them are considered according to the degree of their control potential, like how one role can control another role, whether one role has power over the actions of other roles, which is one type of position, and has power over existing resources and benefits. This is second type of position. Thus, he sees the social structure as a positional picture, and he also uses a lot of formalization, like matrices and mathematical formulas. So the roles and the social structures are seen as, for example, formula, and the positions between the roles are also shown as formulas. And so he proposed very formalized way to look at the social structure. And some of the pictures. Yeah, please.
Yeah, can I just interrupt just a little bit, just to be clear? For the Parsons and for the Nadal, you are saying, you say transitivity of relations. So you're using the term relation here, but I think that this is actually, here you mean a tie, right? You mean relationship.
Oh, yes, relationships.
Yeah, because the relation is like variable, you know, it's friendship, you know, it's...
Yes.
So maybe you have to be a little bit more precise here when you say relation or relationship. Relationship is a value of a tie. Relation is actually the whole network, right?
Yeah. Sorry, this is just the mistake of the translation because we, I mean, in Russian it is взаимодействие, so this is something between two people. Or three people. Yes, thank you very much.
And then another comment is that I would begin the paper with this theoretical foundation. Then I would go to the block modeling to define it. And so this is wonderful what you did. So this literature review of Parsons and Nadal, and we can really see, you know, the theoretical foundation of block modeling here. Yeah, positions and roles. It's wonderful.
Thank you very much. So especially when we look at some of the pictures from this book, it's actually looks like a block model. So probably very small and I mean very small network, but still it's already a kind of block model. So please, next slide. I just need to make some conclusions about these theoretical foundations. So we can find these foundations in the works of classical social scientists, and they give important foundations for understanding social structure as a network of social interactions and role structure. And as they describe the concepts of role, status, and position. However, it's logical and so that they could not offer some specific methodological tools for the empirical analysis of these structures. So we all know there is a very nice article that once Vlado recommended to us, if Parsons had PAEC. So if there would be some methodological tool to test what they proposed, then it would be just great, but they didn't have it. So block modeling, which developed, which appeared like 30 years later, can allow us to represent theoretically grounded relationships between roles and positions in the form of block models based on the analysis of exactly empirical data. And of course, it was possible through the development of computational capabilities as well. So we can conclude that block modeling can give additional analytical opportunities for structural functionalism and other areas of the structural approach in social sciences. So that's why it's really important to look at these definitions and to the notions, just to get deeper the feeling of what exactly this role, status, position, all these notions mean. Okay, so now I think it is time to move to our empirical case, which will be presented by Aryuna.
Okay, hello everybody, good evening. As Tamara already said, when we were thinking about our article, we wanted to point out not only theoretical foundation and some methodological descriptive of block modeling, but also we wanted to show how actually this technique actually works. And we were searching for some good empirical example, and we asked, and we heard about this great study about St. Petersburg sociologists about the history, how the local academic community was discovering by the team of Sokolov, Bacharov, Gubak, Safonov, and others. And they were very kind to share with us their data. And why we choose this study, because we actually have knowledge that they got some specific structure in their data, in their network. As you see in the picture, they got like 3 main clusters: East End, North End, and West End, and that was our stage, the knowledge to which we were pointing our research. So as for the data description about original network, they got the network with the 622 nodes. As I already said, there are 3 main clusters: West End, East End, and North End, and basically they differ. Of the difference between them based on the organizations or affiliations of the people who are actually working in them. So as for the West End, it is the Faculty of Sociology in Higher School of Economics, Center for Independent Sociological Research and European University. For the East End, it is the Faculty of Sociology in St. Petersburg University Research Institute of the Complex Social Research. And for the North End, it is the Sociological Institute of Russian Academy of Science. These clusters are different in their age and gender characteristics, in their overall numbers. They got like the East End, there is 62% of the whole network. So the East End is the biggest cluster in overall network. Then we took.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
According to what data these clusters were obtained? Was there a relation? Was there a network? And if yes, what was that?
What was the base of the network?
Now, what are the data on which these 3 clusters were obtained?
They got the questionnaire, and in this questionnaire there was a question about could you ask me please 1 to 5 some colleagues with whom you were making the same article, or you doing you go into the conference, or other attributes, which means that the people are colleagues, actually this information will be following.
So
okay.
we will exactly show the questions a little bit,
Okay.
just in a few slides.
Then in the article of one of these colleagues, Safonova Maria, she describes only some parts of this whole network. So she used only 56% of the main sample. This is 351 nodes, and she removes some of the people, and finally she got 332 nodes and she used this number for the calculations, but for the visual display she used the reduced network of 2054 nodes. And all this data is constructed according to the question of in the questionnaire. So there were people, the sociologists were actually asked to name the people who have worked with him or her during the last 5 years. Then people who invited him or her to take a research, teaching or administrative position in sociological organization. Then some colleagues who invited him or her to prepare an article. Then people who invited him or her to a public sociological event, such as conference, seminar, school, roundtable, and other. And also some people who invited him or her to a public sociological event. And also they were asking to name some people who contributed most to the development of his or her respondent's scientific career. So as in the results, they got 6 types of the networks, or one network where each line weight can vary from 1 to 6. And what she's done, actually, she did a concert technique. It is one possible solution as the block modeling. So it's a kind of block modeling procedure also. And she discovered that there are actually 3 local zones. She asked them as subgroups. There is subgroup A, subgroup B, subgroup C. So she saw that subgroup A is as the West End. It is the people from European University, Center of Independent Sociological Research, people from High School of Economics, people from subgroup B. It is a kind of East End, as the people from St. Petersburg University, and the group C is in her article consists of 2 different subgroups, C1 and C2. They are subgroups which are very highly connected between each other. So this is the reason why they actually are like together. We can consider them as together as separately. So they are like at the north end. They are people from Scientific Institute of Russian Academy of Science.
Sociological.
Sociological, yeah, Academy of Science. So what kind of data we've got? We've got the data with 254 nodes, with 900 with something of connections, and we know to each node we know the actor attributes. Firstly, it is actor affiliation. We know in which organization this particular actor was working, and also we know to which site site our colleagues think this actor belongs.
Can I ask you a question again? Before you had 300 and something, now you have 254. Why do you have smaller number of units here?
Then colleagues had this number for the visualization, and this is actually the data which they share with us.
And the network that you have is the union of all 6 questions, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All 6 questions.
Together.
So,
right.
Yeah, all together. And exactly that we have all these 6 questions. We have 6 different points of line values with a different amount of frequency from 5 till 500. And what we've done, we were thinking to normalize somehow our data, and we used, for this purpose, we used maximization approach of normalization. So after we've done it, the maximization approach means that the maximum line value will be equal to 1. So when we've done it, we've got 4 different line values, and after that, we've recorded these line values according to the threshold, which are showed in the slide. So this is the table when we've got before 6 different line values, and what we've done, what we have after with the 4 line values after the data normalization. So the results, what we've got. After whole commutation, we used the indirect approach, and we found out that the best actually option which explains the whole data is when we divide our matrix to 6 different clusters. Over here we see the dendrogram. This is actually the first step when we do in the indirect block modeling. We looked at the dendrogram firstly, and then when we've got 6 different clusters, we were searching for each node in each cluster to their affiliations and their site according to the colleagues' work, and we found out that partly this red matrices could be equal to West End community. The yellow one is equal to East End community, and the blue one is a kind of a North End community. But what is important that in the West End we see that people are highly connected inside the community, and there is only 1 cluster in it. Regarding to the East End, we see we divided it the 3 clusters, and here we see 1 cluster with one huge cluster with some communication inside of it. Then we've got some smaller cluster with some of the connections, and 1 almost null cluster without any communication, without any any
communication and relation.
And without any relation. Yep. And as for the North End, there is a huge cluster which could be divided into two different ones. One with the in 1 cluster there is some communication inside of each other, and they also got some connections with the first cluster, with the West End, and we've got 1 huge cluster where we see that there is actually not very there is no some huge community in it. So we see that there are some 2-3 people who are connected with each other, but no more than that. Yep, and there are also some connections with some part of East End and with the West End. So then we were trying to compare our results with the results which got within our colleagues. So with our procedure, we've got in the West End 36 actors, but in the Maria's article, she got 55 actors in her West End community. Then in our East End, there is a huge number of people, more than 100. But in the Maria article, she got 54 actors. Probably her technique shows like this part of East End, which we've got. And in the North End, we got 103 actors. And in Maria article, there is the rest of the network. So then we wanted to have more precisely look to each site, to each cluster. And firstly, we checked the West End with the indirect approach. So this is with the red in the red matrices. So this is the West End group. Here we got 36 actors, and we checked out with the 4 groups, and we think that this number of clusters is the best. And we were trying to make it with the optimization approach. And here in the picture, you see the picture which is not optimized and which is optimized. And the difference is seen, like when we use an optimized approach, the clusters become more clear, and there is more clear relation between blocks and inside of the blocks. So here we notice that optimization in this particular cluster worked.
Sorry, can I ask you a question again? What does it mean, optimization? Is it direct approach?
Yes, this is optimization with the direct approach. Yep.
So then maybe you should write here the title West End direct approach, right?
Yes.
Yes. Sure. Yes.
Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry. So yeah, then we no, sorry, this is actually I missed. This optimization is indirect, because we use the
No. This is direct approach.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So then we compare the optimized indirect optimized indirect block model with the direct block model, and we've seen that the problem when direct approach actually not working well when we are trying to solve direct approach with the 4 clusters. We've got like a first cluster, second cluster, like more or less complete, then some cluster with 1 node, and the huge cluster with some random nodes, some random connections. And that actually is not the results which we were wanted to have. So this is actually the open question, why we had some such strange results with the direct approach. And the same story continue with each cluster. So in the East End, we also wanted to check the structure inside of it. And regarding the East End, the best solution is the same. We've got 3 groups. One group which are one huge group with which are highly connected inside of it, one less highly connected group, and one almost no group. And this is actually clearly seen in the indirect indirect block modeling, but when we wanted to check the direct block modeling, we see that we see this problem when in the first cluster we've got only one person, in the second cluster there are some random connections, and the third cluster is like the same, and we have like this is also open question why we got some such weird weird results.
Yeah, can I how many times did you try so with the initial clustering? How many times? 100 times? 500?
From 100 times till 300 times.
Okay, because it can be local. Okay, now we have another north, right?
Yeah, we have, but also we wanted to check this small part of the east end with indirect approach, and here we've got interesting results with the four clusters in it. When one cluster consists of only one person who had almost all connections, who have connections with almost everyone in this tiny group, with this in this group. So this may be interesting. Then the north end, also we were trying the indirect approach, and indirect shows much better results. Again, regarding when we were trying to check for three groups, we see pretty clear structure. But when we're trying to solve the same three groups in the direct approach, the results are pretty weird. So we've got like almost complete blocks first and second, and crazy random number in the third block.
Yeah, but you know, you have here two wonderful clusters, and you forced to three clusters. Of course, the third cluster is a kind of a mess. Here you should increase the number of clusters.
Increase the number of clusters till.
I don't know. Well, you know, I have an overall. Your network is collaboration network, right? Huh? It is collaboration network. If you go, I'm sorry, but the time. As you know, we studied a lot co-authorship, which is a kind of collaboration network, right? Block modeling of co-authorship networks, I think, and then there we figured out that we have several cores, like you have here two cores, but we have several cores, and then we have semi-periphery with a kind of a messy stuff like your third cluster, and then you have periphery, which is empty, right? Which actually you have not here, but in the previous one you have a kind of empty part. So I don't know, maybe I would test that kind of structure in your data, you know, to have several cores, and then what we figured out that the best is to help the block modeling procedure to find out from the data which nodes, which units do not have any connection. You can find them very easily and put them apart. You know, so you have a clean cluster of periphery that they do not connect to anyone, right? So you just put them in part, and then at the end of clustering procedure, block modeling procedure, you then include them as the periphery cluster, right? But the other, sometimes it is, if you go at the begin to your tree, the dendrogram, can you go back?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
Here,
is the dendrogram.
you know, here you can see a lot of small, very dense clusters. Huh?
Yep.
Even more, you know, if you go more down, you know, so you have, for instance, well, the first one is a kind of a messy one, probably till, I can't point this, but for instance, still, so you see here, from the dendrogram, you see how many small, good clusters you have. And these are cores.
Like these groups.
This one is a kind of messy, but immediately here, even this messy one come, you know, you have immediately a cluster there. So for instance, for the first cluster, if I'm counting, for the first cluster, I would see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there will be, I think there will be, I don't know, probably, yeah, for the first cluster, let me count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, probably 12 clusters, I see. So for the first cluster, there would be, according to me, there would be 12 cores here, you know, in the first one. And in the second one, again, you have to look a little bit more closely what's going on in this second cluster. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 probably would be for the second cluster. And for the third, 1, 2, 3 probably. So I think that you have to find smaller clusters of people that work strongly together. And these are cores. And then you can have, probably you will get somewhere, I don't know where in this dendrogram, would be a kind of semi-periphery. And as I was saying, you take the ones that are not connected to anyone, the one which are not collaborating at all, you know, separately, and then you add to this. So maybe I would make dendrogram without those single functioning persons.
As far as I got, we got the network without any isolate. So there is no people without any connections, actually. They are already removed from the network.
They are already removed. Okay, so then you would get a semi-periphery, you know. So the semi-periphery would be with those ones that have very, very few connections, whatever. Yeah. And
I have a question. Is your network connected?
Components.
Yeah, there is only one component or there are several components? Because if there are several components, you can decompose to each component separately.
No, there is only one component.
Yeah, but did you check this?
No, I think we didn't check it, but yeah, we should check it. Yes.
And another comment is probably you have for each person the information about the institution.
Yes,
sure.
This is a kind of partition, yeah?
Yeah.
And you can use this to color the nodes. So when you make the clusters, you can see by these colors the composition of the clusters.
Very good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yes. Thank you.
So anyhow, for that structure, multi-core, semi-periphery, periphery, just go to our papers. That paper in quality and quantity is the first one that we were doing this, but then we were doing also the last chapter in the last book is on this structure. The whole chapter is on this structure. And this structure was tested also in different settings and so on, and it works pretty well. So I don't know. Yeah.
If I can make another comment, for overall structure, I would just make this indirect approach, because because in your case you have many small clusters, small groups, and using direct approach on this, it's quite, how to say, you will not get reasonable results. But this indirect approach identifies them quite well. So I think for the overall structure, I would use just only the indirect approach. But then you can concentrate on some subclusters, let us say main groups, and to drill into the structure of the main groups, you can use also the direct approach.
And you know, actually they did this.
Yes.
If you go further, for instance, to the last cluster, for instance, here, you know, one here, in our typology of collaboration, you know, we have these cores, and then we have bridging core, and bridging core, for instance, this unit here is connected to, or the last cluster in optimized indirect, these three guys here, you see? It looks like, I don't see it because here are our pictures. I see, yes. They are connected to each other, but they are also connected to the second cluster. So they are bridging actually the second and the third and the second cluster. So this is the bridging core, we call it. So this is also something that can that we have in our paper there written. So I don't know. I think
I think here in this case, I think the direct approach gives you another picture. You get this single unit cluster, which essentially identifies a kind of broker, a person that is linked to all other clusters.
Yes.
And it's quite a nice position. So I think this is quite a nice solution.
Yes.
Okay. In the direct approach, when we've got like one one person
the third cluster, which essentially is linked to all others. Yes.
Yeah.
But
well, in our language, we are
identified
calling
as a single
bridging unit, or it can be broker, but bridging unit. And this structure here is exactly our type of typology. You know, you have here two cores, and then you have this bridging guy, you know, and then you have this semi-periphery here down.
Okay.
That are not systematically connected and weakly connected to each other. This is a very typical three-core semi-periphery structure. Yeah.
And actually, it is interesting to mention that this bridging unit, this is actually a dean of one of the faculties. So this is really, according to his position, he is really a very important person.
No, over here it is actually not him. It is here, like when we've got here for cluster in East End. This first cluster is the dean of the faculty of sociological faculty in one of the universities. This is the reason why he is actually connected to all networks.
Yeah, but you see here, I see several cores here. You see, this first part, you have 1, 2, at least 3 cores here. Maybe this one is okay, the second one, and then in the third one, again, you have a few cores, and then here down, you have a semi-periphery.
Okay, so we need to enlarge the number of clusters.
I think so.
Okay. We just were not sure if, I mean, if it, because when we were enlarging the number of clusters, actually in direct approach, the criterion function was getting lower. So, which means that it was the right thing.
It is, it is better solution. Yeah.
Okay, so let's finalize.
So here, we also checked out the part of the north end, this sunny part with the 31 actors, and check it with the 3 groups as
Aryuna, we do not hear you.
Yeah, this is again 2 cores and semi-periphery. Very good.
Yeah, and some kind of a semi-periphery. And this is it, what we actually wanted to show you. And there are three main points which we want to point out for the discussions. First is the result of the theoretical foundation that block modeling actually allow us to represent theoretically grounded relationships between roles and positions. Another thing that using the proposed approach, we found that the structure is actually very similar to the previous study, and also this approach can help us to look more deeper to the network and to check the obtained clusters and to have more precisely look to the patterns of relations between them. And also what we faced with the difference between the results of direct and indirect approach. And maybe the reason is in the nature of this data. So thank you for the attention. We're waiting for your questions.
There were a lot, Sarah, already, but anyhow, my first question would be, are these data longitudinal or in one time point?
Yeah, it's only in one time point.
Okay.
Yeah, but I might add that data were collected not only based on the questionnaire, but also they included to the network the people who actually were named in this questionnaire, but they have no opportunity to ask them like face to face, but they include their names to their network.
Okay. Well, I think the structure of the paper should begin with this theoretical part, which I really like. It's wonderful, and I don't know if I don't, Vlada, maybe if you remember, I haven't seen that kind of analysis of the nicely written in one piece about theoretical foundations. We always say a little bit about Nadal Parsons or something, you know, but never really go deep into it. So that part is original and great. And I would begin with that. And then I would say, okay, now let us formalize what these guys, I would even, in these theoretical foundations, if you say that Nadal has a kind of block modeling already somehow in matrices or something, I would even put into the paper a kind of picture so that it would be a kind of the beginning of the formalization of block modeling. And then in the second part, you go to the formalization and all this. Be careful, relationship, those things. Use or units or nodes. Select whatever, but be consistent. Yeah. And then this example, which is quite a nice example. So I don't force yourself, of course, with our typology, but we were working on this quite many years. Luca Kronecker began in his dissertation, actually. And I think that maybe, well, have a look on those papers, and then you will see if you can go in this direction also in a way, or at least mention it or something. But otherwise, I agree with Vlado that first you make this indirect approach, you get these three clusters or whatever, maybe even 4, but you have hypothesis of 3 because they got 3. And then you go deeply, probably for each cluster according to our typology, the coarse and semi-periphery or something. So it's it will be. It's nice. It's a nice. It's a very nice work. I like it.
Yeah, maybe one would mention also Harrison White as a next step to from theory to let us say formalization in some sense. They didn't provide yet any method, but how to say, they made this mathematical formalization of the idea.
Yeah, these are 2 authors, Harrison White, and who was the second author, Lado?
Some French, I forgot.
Yeah, actually, we all cite this paper as the foundational paper. Maybe just to mention, at the beginning of the second section, that paper that began to formalize and then just go on with this formalization.
And another thing, maybe because when you are doing block modeling, the clusters can be determined automatically, but it is not necessary. For instance, you can just take this membership of different institutions. So each institution can be a cluster. And now if you shrink, you get a kind of block model according to that clustering. But sometimes you're trying to create clusters automatically, and then you look how, then you can compare how the, let us say, official structure compares with real structure.
Maybe according to this, I would ask the typology that the previous guys got, these 3 clusters, I mean, the Sokol and so on, was that very clean structure, so that this Academy of Science was only there and nowhere else? So was it very clean structure according to these affiliations or not?
Actually, we have this data, so we have for each of our actor, we have the group to which he or she was ascribed to. So we can look, we can even by ourselves, even though we are in contact with our colleagues, and even some of them are now at this seminar. So I think we can solve this issue.
Because actually, what if I just continue what Vlado was saying, you know, so you can have, according to their typology, the clean typology. For instance, this RAS in one cluster, then St. Petersburg University in one cluster, and all others in one cluster. So if you make this very, very straightforward classification, as Vlado was saying, for example, and then the Sokol et al. Typology with affiliations, then we can see if it is a clean one or not according to the first solution, and then you have yours. And then you can compare how clean the thing is.
Mm-hmm. Great. We have a lot of ideas.
Yeah, now we've got a lot of to do.
Yeah. Well, but anyhow, it's a very nice idea. So it will be a very nice paper.
Thank you.
Yeah. And hopefully then not only lab, but also other Russian sociologists will use block modeling.
Oh, we'll make sure that we propagate it through. Yeah, but that's.
Oh yeah, hi. I'm sorry, my video is not working, so I can't show me up.
Well, my video is working, but I just kind of thought that I probably shouldn't. This online mode is getting a little bit too much. So thank you, colleagues. I think this was a very good presentation. I think it was a wise idea to bring it up and discuss before you did too much work on it, because obviously you have gotten lots of very valuable feedback. I guess there are no more questions, right, from our colleagues who are visiting us from outside the lab.
Yeah, if there are some questions or feedback from, especially from the group from St. Petersburg, it would be nice to hear, or we can simply discuss it later. Yeah, probably later. Okay.
Well, if that's everything, I think at this point we can probably thank our guests for being here, and if they want to leave, they're free to do so. Dash, we can also probably stop the recording so that so we only post the official part for